Hello, my name is Neil Ticktin. I'm the editor-in-chief and publisher of MacTech Magazine, and we're doing the TUAW MacTech Magazine interviews of developers at the Worldwide Developer Conference 2011 up here in San Francisco. With us now is James Wilson from Lithium. Welcome, James. Yeah, long way from home. That's I hope it's a safe travel.
It's a long way.
Why don't we start with why don't people tell us a little bit about who you are, what Lithium does.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of background.
Yeah. We've been in the niche space for about the last 5 or so years. In 2007, we brought across Lithium, which is our network monitoring app, to Macworld. Actually, it was where we debuted it, just in one of those smallest possible booths there was, and the response was just massive. We had no idea there was such a need for it. So we literally just took off from there, and we've been running that as sort of the premier network monitoring app for Mac since then, with great support for Xserve and Xsen and all that. And so that's been going really well. We've got a great customer base, and just recently I started to do some more sort of experiments in other veins with another app that came out recently called Tweet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Why don't you tell people a little bit about Tweet?
Yeah, so Tweet is for me, I love using Twitter, but I hate getting up in the morning and after 8 hours of being in the wrong time zone, I've got like literally this long Twitter feed full of stuff that some of it's interesting, some of it's not. The most I want out of it is what people are posting about articles they've read and that sort of thing, right? So I had this idea of just making an absolute bare bones Twitter client that was just for links, and that's all Tweet is, right? It just takes your timeline, looks for URLs in there, and just presents you a list of links. Yeah. Right. So it's kind of like what you would have used an RSS feed reader before. Right. But now, what do I need a feed reader for? All those people are the people I'm following on Twitter anyway. Right. Yeah? So I've got this one app that's all the people I follow. It's all the links that they're reading and they've written. Right. And just a neat interface where I can scroll through the timeline and go, yeah, I'm interested in that, and as I tap that, it sort of loads them in previews as they're going, right? So it breaks the cycle of...
And this is a Mac app, right?
No, this is iPad.
iPad app, okay, yeah.
We wanted to break that sort of cycle of, I want to read something, I'm waiting for it to load and all that, so it has a nice way of sort of transitioning between what I want to read, previewing it, and then, when you're ready, you can read it now or send it off to Instapaper or whatever you want to do. Wow. Yeah, so that came out 2 weeks ago.
Cool. And how much of a difference do you find it is in the quantity of tweets that you're reviewing when you look? Has it knocked it down by 90%? Is it?
Look, I think it's probably a 70-30 split. I think I think 30% is going away and 70% is staying, and I'm reading. And
70% is staying.
Yeah, because I think
that's surprising. I was thinking it should be the other way around.
Mate, so did I. When I thought initially that I'd wake up in the morning and be like 1, 2, 3, 4 links at the most, right? But I'm amazed at how many people are actually they just tweet what they're looking at, or they tweet what they've written, or they retweet a link that something's come up, and that. And that's going to happen more and more with the Twitter features coming into iOS now. It's going to be so
much more of it,
to post those links.
Yeah. And okay, so keynote address yesterday. We saw a whole lot of different announcements out there. What'd you think?
Very interesting. I mean, first time I've seen a keynote that's purely software, and it was pretty awesome. Actually, for me, that's actually great because I'm sick and tired of going to a keynote, seeing all this awesome hardware, and then I wait 6 months for it to get down to Australia. Yeah. So I think this time I actually get to use everything when everyone else does, except iTunes Match, I think. That's about it. So that was good, but look, iCloud is something that is I guess long overdue. For the music space, it's great, but what it offers developers for storage and pushing is pretty immense.
Yeah, you definitely have had developers that are kind of hacking their way through MobileMe and those types of solutions in order to make these things happen, but it just really makes it simple and easy for people to go, just, this is my solution, and with every Mac user getting a free account, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think more than what it just gives developers and customers, it's the real subtlety, and the key thing about iCloud is how Steve said that, the cloud is the truth, and that's going to be a big shift, and if people understand that, it's going to make it so much easier for developers to get an app out there that's trustworthy and usable, because it's very difficult to make an app that works well when the network's down, or an app that can merge changes that you've done across 5 different machines. Once you get the meme in there that the cloud is the truth and you have to be connected to the cloud to make your app work, things get a lot simpler, and although you may think it's going to limit the user by having to be connected to the network, I think they'll grow to appreciate the fact that it's live, it's real. There's no worrying about, well, if I do this now, am I going to lose my work?
Well, and I think the robustness of not having a net connection, if iCloud and what developers do with iCloud and what the OS does with iCloud, as far as making sure that you are always in good shape, you'll have some robustness through the not having a connection, because, we're sitting here in San Francisco right now. Sure, there's a connection everywhere, okay? But maybe some people in San Francisco might disagree with that. But, you know, but when you compare it to like the rest of the world out there, it really is not. You don't have connectivity everywhere.
This is true.
We're not at that point. Wi-Fi is not everywhere. 3G is not everywhere. Let alone 4G or LTE or anything along those lines. That we're just not at that point. It is not completely ubiquitous. So whether there needs to be that kind of adjustment, otherwise you're going to have people who hop on an airplane or go off to the park where there isn't something, and they're not going to be able to do what they want to do because they don't have sync. So
of course,
hopefully developers will.
I think that there's going to be a need for some sort of local cache, but I'm hoping that is backed into iCloud itself. And
absolutely,
not up to the developers.
And that's going to be the key to it: is how transparent
Definitely.
do you make that whole thing? How automated does it? So, I can see some of the impacts on Tweet. Do you see, especially on the Lithium crowd for MacTech readers and TIW readers as well, or viewers? Do you? What do you think about some of the changes that happen, or what do you see happening with Lithium?
Yeah, look, the stuff that's going to go into Lithium is really all the incremental stuff that's happened in Lion and iOS. What I mean? There's Tweet stuff aside. What Lion and iOS 5 are going to give us is the reasons we needed to go into a full refresh of Lithium console on the Mac and also our iOS version. On the Mac, we've been very much a multi-window sort of app for a long time now. Obviously, we need to roll that up into a single window, take use of the full screen. Being able to have that, the instant on save and restore feature of where all your windows are up to is going to be great. And there's some document types that we use in there for like representing your wiring closet racks or your network diagrams and things like that. We started those off as local files. Then we tried to make them server-side documents to allow people to share them. And it's definitely not the easiest thing to do, especially with versioning. So the ability now to build that into the OS and be able to push it up to iCloud and all the rest is going to be
make
huge.
it a lot easier for you to do.
Absolutely. So it's going to be good. It's going to strip out a lot of the code there that we had to kludge to get things where it is, and just sort of strip it back, make it standards built on the API that we've got, and then go from there.
Now we see a lot of people here. Obviously, this is a very technical crowd, and Lithium is going to be something that's important to them, or is already important to them in a lot of ways. And we saw these announcements to some extent in the keynote about Lion and Lion Server. Now, what it wasn't in the keynote that they didn't talk about was that Lion Server is going to be only $50 to go from Lion to Lion Server through the Mac App Store. So, this is a far cry from the $500 that you were looking at before. Not that $500 was an unreasonable price, but $50 is a lot easier for people to get into.
Absolutely.
Do you think that this is going to make a change for server software, and do you see products like Lithium, needing or meeting the needs of a lot more people because there's going to be a lot more server copies out there?
Initially, when in 07 when we debuted this, why customers needed Lithium was because they had Xserves and Xsans, and they needed a rock-solid solution to monitor those. And so we were being driven then by the fact that they had this hardware, and we were driven by the infrastructure they had. We've seen a steady change in that, from being driven by wanting to use Lithium because of the infrastructure they've got, to being wanting to use Lithium because of the client they've got. Because they're an IT person and they've got a Mac, and now they've got an iPhone, now they've got an iPad. So we're increasingly seeing that we have customers that have literally no Apple infrastructure at all, but they've got a Mac, they've got an iPod, and they want a great-looking monitoring solution for them. So the Leopard server stuff is I don't think it's going to really drive up our demand as much as the proliferation of iOS devices and Mac as the tool of the trade for IT technical people.
Okay. Anything I didn't ask you about that you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Lithium or Tweet or?
Well, look, I think Lithium is got some interesting roads ahead for it. I mean, we've seen a big change in the marketplace with the cancellation of the Xserve earlier in the year. That was obviously a pretty big wake-up call for us and all the people in that Mac IT technical space.
It was very interesting because that happened the last day of MacTech conference last year. And so there was this let's call it group therapy session that took place at the end of MacTech conference.
I think the announcement was the 5th of November, which happens to be my birthday. So,
there you go. So
awesome
happy birthday present.
There you go. Here you go. The main reason customers use your app is gone. So that's been a big change, but it's been good for us because it's allowed us to, I've been putting so much effort into making sure we could cover those really proprietary Xsan, Xserve protocols.
And now you're branching out to think about these other things.
And now I can stop trying to just reverse engineer those and realize that at the end of the day, our customers have got servers, and servers are servers are servers at the moment, whether they're cloud or they're hardware, they're looking the same. They've got switches and routers and a couple of network bits and pieces. So now that that's sort of shrunk down to a more commoditized size, I can really now start to put the magic in the UI to say, well, we're going to make all servers look the same. Yep. So you get the same sort of user interface for looking at a server, at a switch, at a router. So I think that's going to be great for our users, giving them a standard way to look at everything across their network, no matter what sort of device it is.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to be here and to talk with us. We've been talking to James Wilson from LithiumCorp. My name is Neil Ticktin. I'm the editor-in-chief and publisher of MacTech Magazine. These are the MacTech Magazine TUAW Talks with Developers at WWDC 2011 in San Francisco. Thanks.